What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop playing the victim. The root of failure is the victim mentality, and the root of stagnation and the inability to do something is the victim mentality. I see this with my family members. I see this with so many people around me. I've seen this for years, and I saw it with myself.
In today's episode of Lock In or Log Off, we're thrilled to introduce a special guest. He's a visionary entrepreneur who built one of the biggest NFT brands in history and a community that's truly obsessed. From being homeless for 8 years to mastering the NFT game with Pudgy Penguins, a 9-figure business. Known for his creativity and game-changing ideas, he's inspiring thousands worldwide. Introducing the one and only Luca Netz.
What's the future of Pudgy Penguins looks like in the next 5 to 10 years?
My hope for the Pudgy Penguin brand was I want it to become a cultural phenomenon. I want to be number one on the Apple App Store across all apps. I know we can do that with Pudgy Party that's coming out next year. And I want to put this Pengu on the big screen. I know we can do it. I know we can put it in theaters. I know we can put it on Netflix and Hulu. I know we can put it in Paramount Plus and Disney Plus. I just know we can do it.
Welcome back to the Lock In or Log Off podcast, where I speak to builders, entrepreneurs, creators, and traders to understand how they spotted opportunity and how they navigated their way to success. Today, I am joined by the amazing Luca Netz. Thank you very much for coming on, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
You've obviously had quite the week with the big announcements, but before we jump into everything Pudgy Penguins related, I like to start this off with kind of painting a picture for how Web3 has changed some people's lives in many ways. So who was Luca Netz before Web3 and who is he now?
I think Luca Netz before Web3 was an entrepreneur who was a really good marketer. I always looked at myself like an internet marketer, somebody that, wanted to be great, but wasn't, I think. I, I'd probably just say I was an internet hustler, and a wannabe entrepreneur that was trying to be an entrepreneur and trying to be a founder. I think who I am after Web3 is I think I'm truly this stuff really saved me in I think more ways than one, in the sense that I think I really evolved to like my maximum potential, and I'm not even there yet, but I think this really set me straight into the direction that I knew I was always kind of capable of achieving, and put me kind of on a path, which is the path that I'm on now. So, who I was before, I think an internet hustler, somebody who was, super money oriented, not necessarily, oriented around making impact and creating something that, you could wear on your sleeve as like a badge of honor. And I think now I'm very much striving for greatness.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen that come up, and I mean, there's definitely a big purpose about what you're building now in terms of making a lot of people's lives a lot better with Pudgy kindness. With everything you're building, it's very positive vibes and all around pushing positivity. What do you see as like in the modern world? How important do you see it to be an optimist, and especially in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think, it comes down to like when there's a saying which is like, aim for the stars, land on the moon. Like, you got to always think bigger, you got to want more. I feel like a lot of people's dreams are too small. So, even if I want to be a billionaire, but I land, being, having $100 million, it's not too bad, right? Now, did I still fall short? Sure. Versus like if your goal and aspirations to make 100 grand a year, right, and you settle at like $40,000, right? It's not. People don't dream big enough or want it. I think at the scale that I think they should want it, and so that's probably kind of what I have to say to that.
And in terms of, you mentioned a lot there, like in terms of aiming high and everything like that. But I think one of the most important things when people look to do that is finding their purpose to kind of put their energy into. I think
Mm.
in the modern world, a lot of young people struggle to find their purpose. How did you kind of stumble upon this being your purpose? And what's one piece of advice you'd give a young person trying to find their purpose?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, I always knew. So you kind of come to this conclusion. I grew up super poor, right? Most people already know that. Well, when I was 18, I made my first $1 million. And the real elephant in the room, when that happened, was you get pretty miserable. So you get pretty miserable because when you grow up in the situation that I did, which I think most people kind of grow up in similar situations, you think that money is going to be the solution to your problems. And then when you get money, it kind of hits you like a brick wall. And then if you're if you have some sort of semblance of a consciousness, you kind of go down this rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole is like, oh wow, I have all this money, I'm not that happy. Oh, it's probably because I don't have enough money, right? Which is like moving the goalpost. Or two, it's probably because, money is actually not like is not the derivative of is not a derivative of happiness, or happiness is not a derivative of money. Uh, Now, I have an argument to this because I don't think you can be happy struggling all the time,
Yeah.
right? Struggling to pay the bills. So I don't think money creates happiness, but I don't think you can be truly happy if money is a problem.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thought there. But I believe, from my perspective, my fulfillment found, when I made all this money, I started buying myself stuff. And then when I was starting to give stuff and buy stuff for other people around me, that's what started to create some sort of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so it was the joy that I could give other people that I started to think that I started to realize was actually where I was getting the most dopamine. And then as you kind of extrapolate that, it's like, oh, making products or doing things for other people that impact them in a positive way is fulfilling, and that is a purpose worth pursuing. And so once you start to get that, then you start to work backwards, and you try to insert yourself into businesses and opportunities that are both, financially enticing and purpose driven. And so subsequently, Pudgy Penguins has morphed into that, which is, obviously, it's a great business with a ton of opportunity. But I told the community this, really early on, which was, at a minimum, if this thing fails, like, think about all the lives that we're changing on this path.
Yeah.
On our Instagram, you're more than open to go and look at it for yourself. Like, you go through the comments long enough, you'll see people being like, "You stopped me from killing myself today."
Yeah.
Like, how cool and incredible that is. And obviously you feel so bad and you have so much empathy for that person, but to think that, our piece of content that we're making and that the community is supporting and is playing a role in creating is either, on the bedside of a kid who has, cancer via their plushie, or, somebody who's going through a rough patch on Instagram, doom scrolling social, that ultimately is having thoughts of killing themselves. And that post is so funny or so relatable or so uplifting that they no longer want to do that. Uh, you know, that's really meaningful.
Yeah.
And I also think that is one of the reasons why Pudgy is what it is today, because it is almost the best version of, I think, people. And in this sense, it's representing crypto, so it's like the best version of crypto, you know?
Yeah, I think it's such a weird thing to see that something so positive and at such scale and impacting people's lives is coming from crypto, because it's
Mm,
like it's it kind of goes against each other, because a lot of people see crypto as such a negative thing. It's just like very just financially driven. It doesn't have that much of a positive impact. It's been painted in a pretty bad light over many years, but what you guys have managed to do with Pudgy is like really build one of the brands globally, even outside of Web3, that impacts in such a positive way and really kind of puts it out there. And I think, I mean, we've seen some of the streamers' lives that you changed on Pudgy Kindness, which I think every time I watch that, it's just insane to see that you guys have that much power now to be able to drive that kind of support to these people. But going into what's the future of Pudgy Penguins looks like, and what I guess Luca looks like in the next 5 to 10 years, what is the end goal for you as both a person but also for the brand?
I think for me, my obligation for to the community is we have to win, and we have to win by a considerable margin. Um, my hope for the Pudgy Penguin brand and the character, and one of the reasons why we decided that Pengu was a necessity, was I want it to become a cultural phenomenon, right? Like, I want it to be so polarizing across so many countries around the globe that it's really hard to escape the penguin.
Yeah.
Uh, and I want it to be a brand that represents crypto in a way that no other brand can represent crypto. I want it to be in the hearts and minds of tens of millions of people. I want it to be in hundreds of thousands of retail stores with thousands of different SKUs. I want to do the biggest and best collaborations that you can think of. And probably most importantly, the two ones that are closest to me from like a business perspective is, I want to be number one on the Apple App Store across all apps. I know we can do that with Pudgy Party that's coming out next year. I want Pudgy World to bring people together and create friendships and memories that, people once had, 15 years ago when they were playing Club Penguin. I think we can tap into a similar nerve. And I want to put this Pengu on the big screen. I know we can do it. I know we can put it in theaters. I know we can put it on Netflix and Hulu. I know we can put it in Paramount Plus and Disney Plus. I just know we can do it. Um, that I think that one specifically, because I'm a huge like movie buff and TV show buff. That one specifically, and I'll not say that my job will be done, but that's the one that when we pull that off, I'm gonna think to myself like, yeah, I did my job.
Yeah, I think we've already seen the emotional, like what it can bring to people from an emotional side, and to see that in long form, I think would be amazing. Obviously, we see all the gifs, we see all the reels. I get sent it by many people, and people always share with family and everything like that. But I would love to see that in the long form, and I think anyone who loves movies and loves storytelling understands how much impact the long form can have to people's lives as well. But going back to Pengu, which is obviously the big talk of the
Mm,
town after the announcement this week. I think it's a given that a lot of these kind of token launches as such are cultural movements and tied to a cultural movement. What is the cultural movement that Pengu is going out to achieve?
yeah, it's a really fascinating question. I think from our perspective, it's probably the culture. It's probably around goodness, right? Like what does Pudgy Penguins make you feel? I think for us, and this is why I think this is something that I really believe will create the catalyst that will create Pudgy Penguins into a and turn it into a cultural phenomenon. I think when I first saw Pudgy, I smiled and I felt good. And even during the chaos long before our acquisition, I always scrolled through my OpenSea profile and I thought it was just like the one NFT I had in my portfolio that just made me feel really good. And I believe that the magic is truly in the penguin. I believe people love penguins. I believe that there's no better illustrated penguin than the Pudgy Penguin. And I think there's this like natural emotion that just hits your core some way somehow around that penguin, really spreading, goodness and love and positivity. And for a long time I kind of thought like, oh, is that cringe? Right? Because I'm like a young guy,
Yeah.
25. I'm like, are we, is spreading love and kindness and and memes and happiness, like, is that cringe? And the immature man would be like, yeah, it's cringe, right? Like, and I can see how someone can come that perspective, but I think if you evolve in life and as you mature, you realize like that's actually all that matters, you know? And I think a lot of people know that. And so I think from our perspective, like let's just not try to like circumvent, an angle that I think some people might think of it as, and because they're just not mature enough to get that, and really lean into the angle that is like the natural emotion that the penguin emits, which is like good vibes and like positivity, and it just makes you feel good. Now, is that like, hey, have a great day, I love you, or a funny meme? It can be many different things, I think. But I think we want to be the character and the face of goodness around the world, with our origin story being the Pudgy Penguin,
Yeah.
which ultimately, I think represents crypto in no better light.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think it's a super interesting topic you speak on in terms of the approach of spreading love being a cringe, especially for men as such. I think it's
And crypto, that's why you had to bring it up, because you also have to think about like how do you, but at the end of the day, those people are not necessarily the market movers. Like,
yeah, and I think from a mass thing, like I think it's being brave enough to go down that route is definitely what differentiates you guys heavily.
totally.
I think emotions. I think we all know that storytelling is driven on emotions, and the way that you guys have been able to capture the cute and lovable emotions and just the positive emotions, I think is the reason the brand has been able to scale so well. I think it's the reason the reels do so well. It's the reason you're able to go so viral in so many ways. And I think it's quite it kind of goes back to the I think what we see a little bit in society in terms of people having a little bit of fear of doing great things just out of the kind of the judgment of maybe being cringe or maybe being judged by their friends when looking to do something like this. But when you set out to kind of push a brand like this, is this the type of brand that you always thought that you'd want to do growing up, or is it kind of something that you've kind of stumbled into?
Yeah, naturally, like, if I were to create an NFT project, I probably would have created something like D Gods,
Yeah.
right? Like that's just naturally how I grew up, who I am as a person.
Yeah.
But I'm happy I'm here, and we're really good at it. And naturally, this is more fulfilling, I think, for me than any other direction that we could have went. Like study karmic retribution, like study like why Pudgy Penguin's succeeding.
Yeah.
Like it's so because of that,
Yeah.
right? Because anybody who I think has real size in crypto knows that that matters the most, and they know that we represent that the best. And I've had guys come to me, billionaires, that are just like, dude, I'm buying 100 penguins. I don't care about the money. I care about it because if you don't win,
Yeah.
it's really bad for the space.
Yeah.
And you're doing everything right, and this brand is doing everything right for crypto. It's everything that people wanted crypto to be and represent. And so I'm going to buy your penguins, and I won't stop buying them. And it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's because what you're doing is great for society and it's great for crypto. And we want you to keep going.
Yeah, I think there's something so special about being a part of this movement. And I think it's why a lot of people are in cryptos because there is such a huge movement. But it's in specific Pudgy Penguins. I think even across the timeline, people who don't kind of hold the Pudgy Penguin still supports it and they still kind of get behind it because, like you say, it kind of portrays the best side of what we've seen crypto able to do. But in terms of how that's kind of comes to fruition and taking Pudgy to the next level, what does that look like over the next 6 months to a year as we go into bull markets? Obviously, it's easier to win in a bull market. You guys won in the bear market, so I'd love to also tap into that kind of point of view of like you guys had a huge run in the bear market when there was no liquidity for any NFTs. Now going into the bull markets, how does that change things?
Yeah, so we were the bear market heroes, and I plan to be the bull market champion, right?
Nice.
I expect nothing less. And so I think from our perspective, the most exciting part about Pengu and this addition to the ecosystem is really the world being able to see the tools in our toolbox from a marketing perspective. Whatever you've seen up until this point, I think you've seen nothing yet. Because I think we're the best marketing team in crypto unequivocally. I stand by that today. I think very few people would refute it. I think when this is all said and done, I think people will look at us as one of the best teams in crypto in general. But I believe today there's no better group, from a marketing perspective. And if you have doubt, that doubt will be removed here shortly, right? Because I think over the next couple of months, the beauty and one of the only problems with the NFT and I'm the biggest NFT bull, but there's a natural mechanism in which the NFT lives, which makes it hard for the asset to reach a certain audience, and that's really the nature in how the NFT is positioned. And so to give you some context, NFTs are too priced out of retail.
Yeah.
So for example, my cheapest NFT right now is a $10,000 little pudgy or a $4,000 fishing rod,
Yeah.
right? And if you want our premier NFT, it's $90,000, right? No one is going to be able to participate in that, right? At least from a scale perspective, like millions of people won't be able to participate in that. So I think Pengu is really interesting because now when we do these big partnerships or these big marketing campaigns, you'll actually be able to see kind of what the market thinks of that in a true Lindy way, not a way that's kind of handicapped by the mechanism in which the NFT lives. Now, I believe that the status around the Pudgy Penguin NFT will go up significantly when you open up this huge base to a ton of holders.
Yeah.
Uh, and so naturally, I think this is not I don't believe the success of the other is mutually exclusive. I actually believe they help each other succeed in a super meaningful way. Um, so I think that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I know when you guys look to push the plushies and everything like that, it was a distribution play to kind of get in the hands and like a lower price point for people to participate in the ecosystem. Now, obviously, Pengu's doing the same thing, but from like an investment opportunity side of things.
Mm.
Is this very much the play of like as retail looks to come in during the bull markets, allowing for more people to feel furtherly invested into the Pudgy Penguin journey?
don't underestimate the power of alignment and how far Pudgy Penguins has gone over the last 2 years because of the 10,000 holders that are aligned and seeing its success, right? Like Pudgy Penguins in a Web 2 perspective gets hundreds of millions of views a day on social, has millions of followers, and has sold millions of toys, right? And I attribute a majority of that success because of the alignment and the network effect and the chain reaction of the 10,000 NFT holders who kind of created that initial, snowball effect. I'm trying to take that same snowball effect that we've seen via a 10,000 person case study, and I want to bring it in a 100x it to a million person case study. And so I think things are going to get a lot crazier because I actually think one of the greatest things around tokenization is this creation of alignment, right? Tokenizing and making intangible assets tangible, right? And aligning people around cultures and movements or brands or IP, however you want to position it, I think really puts things in a really interesting situation that I think the world hasn't seen before. From our perspective, we have every intent to grow the community and to leverage this, moment to take the millions of people that I know outside of crypto love and see and have affinity for the Pudgy Penguin brand, and I want them to participate. It was also kind of like one of the logics around Solana. Everyone was like, why Solana? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, abstract mainnet's not live, right? And if I were to rush mainnet, I'm now putting two eggs in a bucket under a tight timeline that presents more risk. So I'm rushing something that's supposed to be long term for an initiative that I think needs to happen now. You can't do ETH L1 because ETH L1, the other day I was just paying $70 in gas. I think everyone can understand that, right? And so, but TikTok and all these places where Pudgy Penguins is huge, they're all using Solana to participate. So it would have been really silly for me, I think, to have rushed abstract to kind of hit this perfect timing, which I think now is the perfect time. And you can't underestimate in crypto how important timing is, right? So I was either going to rush abstract and compromise one of our most important things in the entire Igloo, arguably one of the most important thing, because I think it's such a big foundational layer, which I think makes no sense, right? You can't do ETH L1 because all of a sudden I'm not speaking to the audience that I'm trying to bring in, which is all of these millions of followers, right? And so the obvious place is Solana, and it's impossible to refute that Solana is, today, right here, right now, the consumer onboarding mechanism for normies to come on chain. It's impossible to refute that. Even if you're an L1 maxi or whatever, you can't make that argument. It's just not true, right? And so, and on the other side of it, it's like, Pudgy Penguins has wanted to be the face of crypto, not the face of Ethereum, right? We should be able to go to any chain and see huge success, and people should be excited for any chain that we go on, right? And another point to that is like, I love the Solana community. I knew this when things were down only in Solana land. I was like, dude, the community is too cool, right? The people are too much of chads. So, I ultimately think like if you're not going and bringing new people in and expanding the funnel and building the army, you're doing it wrong. And I think for us, like Pengu has to build the Pudgy Penguin army, right? And it has to take this crazy energy of 10,000 people, and we have to take it to 1 million people. Solana Trench Warriors are the most active participants, most hungry, rabid manlets, animals. Like they go hard, dude. I want that. I know I can harness that energy and that force of nature better than anyone else. I think I am the guy to harness that energy and show it in its final form. So you have like normie onboarding, face of crypto, rabid community animals, and manlets, and what we've got going with like a culture around memes and these style of tokens, on that chain. But I actually like think for us, like I want to set the bar as to what I think this thesis of I don't define Pudgy Penguins as the Pengu token as a meme coin. I leave it up to the world to define it as it is. But I think most people will default define it as such. But if you were, I challenge you to think of like in principle through its mechanism and how it lives, correct, right? Like it is very much in that vein, but no one's going to do what we're doing. Like I'm going to put this thing on the movie screen at your local movie theater. I'm going to put this on Netflix. I'm going to. I'm just telling you I am. Like, I'm going to put this on a PlayStation. And so have you ever seen that, right?
Yeah.
Where is this like, yes, we're incredibly mimetic. We have 50 billion views across Giphies and 10 years, and we have like thousands of memes that are created throughout the world. Our CT memes and videos are bar none, right? Everyone's wearing the PFP. The PFP is everywhere. It's inescapable. Yes, all of those things are true, right? Which I think creates which I think that alone makes it, a top 3 in its category, in my opinion, right? But but what is it if I put it, in 10,000 movie theaters across the country, or I put it in a Happy Meal,
Yeah.
right? Like what does that look like? Like, what do people think of that? Because to me, that is not just a meme, right? It's like meme plus plus, and like it's plus a lot of different things. Is it like a consumer brand token? Is it like an IP token? Is it a memetic token? Is it, this cultural phenomenon token and this force of nature? Is it the face of crypto, right? Is like, what are you indexing it as? Is it the greatest underdog story and the greatest CTO in crypto, right? There's a lot of different ways in which, but I think it's all of those things. And then that's why the video is so funny. We're having such a good time now. We've been through a lot of pain in this business, but now we're having a lot of fun. That's why, at the end of the video that we post, it's like one coin to rule them all. I believe that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it shouldn't be. I don't know why it can't be. Because if you just check the scoreboard and you look at like what we've got versus what the next person got, and it's not to be PvP, I just think we've done such a good job, and this community has earned the fact to, hang, wear this like a crown on their head. Like, dude, we have the most views. We have the most products and homes. We have, a team and a force that has been proven that every couple of months I'm gonna hit the space with a jaw-dropping headline. I think we're we're the best marketers in the space, if not one of the top 3. Even if you're the biggest pessimist, you can't say there's 3 groups that are better than us. So I think this just opens a door, dude, a door that I think can kind of make things really crazy really fast. But obviously we've yet to see.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how you guys go about, I guess, meme coins. I know you don't call it a meme coin, but I mean, I would love to get your take on the meme coin industry anyway, because I feel like it is evolving a little bit. I think previously it has very much been there's this token and this community just rallies up behind it. We're starting to see them be a little bit more dynamic. We've seen it with some of the AI agents now growing, and like some of the AI agents having more awareness than KOLs on the timeline. It feels like the so-called meme coin industry is evolving in a very big way. Even if you guys don't classify and kind of go into that category, just like I guess a token as a distribution perspective, but also as like an empowering and kind of an audience growth perspective. How are you seeing, the developments in that side of the industry?
So I believed in the meme coin super cycle for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
I believed in it because every night for 15 minutes, I trade around, I bookmark things, I go to my bookmarks, I see what people are playing around with. And the second I was started to trade the meme coins, it felt just like NFTs 2021, just with deeper liquidity, right? Like deeper tranches of liquidity and more places in which it could go. So I believed in this for a while. I didn't think until recently it was the right time for us to do it, and that's why we kind of did it a little ad hoc. It was really like the election. I was like, okay, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this now. Because the plan was actually we were always gonna do this. We were just gonna do it on Abstract. Like that was the plan. Abstract mainnet. Then a great way to kind of kick off the ecosystem is to launch this. We know you have all the leverage. And then I just got caught with a moment in time. I'm like, well, one, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Two, I think Pengu's success tremendously helps Abstract success in 10 different ways, which we can go down to if you want. But I just knew, I was like, dude, if you're gonna do this, now's my gut, and my gut's been really good this whole last couple of years. I was like, if you're gonna do this, you have to do it now.
Yeah.
You can't wait. You can't wait. You can't let it go. You can't let it slip from under you. So I think that was the thought process on at least the timing. I don't know if I answered your core question. I went on a little bit of a tangent.
No, I think that covers it in many ways in terms of how you kind of see the meme coins kind of developing and the super cycle.
Okay, so I didn't answer your question directly. So I believe in the super cycle.
Yep.
I believe meme coins have amazing PMF. I think my biggest issue with meme coins as a trader
Yeah.
is like, I don't know which ones I can size into and like I don't know which one I can just be like, I'm going to put my money in here. It's going to catch the wind of the meme coin supercycle. I know it's going to work. I don't need to freak out about it, right? There's only a couple.
Yeah.
And I think we're more in that boat. Like, am I your pump fund shitter gonna get Pengu at $1 million? No, sorry, right? Like, I think we've worked too hard. There's some sort of natural intrinsic price in which this thing has to start off at because of the NFT and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think from our perspective, it's a very it's a unique opportunity, I think, to kind of set a tone and set a bar and go into a place and into a category that I know is going to work over the long time, but I think is severely underdeveloped.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I say, I think meme coins have been very underdeveloped, but I think it's interesting to see how meme coins have probably like there's more meme coin communities that have been able to build a stronger community and a cult like following as such. Kind of what you've done with Pudgy, but we haven't seen as many NFT communities be able to sustain that
Yeah.
in many ways. Why do you think that is?
Pudgy, when I bought it, was at 0, but it was really at 0.5 ETH. But like morale was at 0. So the best thing is Pudgy is like by definition of cult and like battle testedness. Milady's the only one else that can say this. But there's no more battle tested community in NFT and memes outside of like Doge, us, and Milady.
Yeah.
Right? They try to cancel Milady 100 times. They try to cancel us. They had so much FUD, prior to my acquisition. That's what makes community. Like drawdowns, and dude, the last year's been hard, right? Like Penguins had that huge run up.
Yeah.
We were, we were down bad a little bit there for a minute. I didn't pretend that we weren't.
Yeah.
I couldn't control it because, things were heavy. But, ultimately at the end of the day, that's the type of thing that builds conviction. That's what builds community. That's what time also creates memories.
Yeah.
I hate how people will be like, a new coin will launch and for 3 months are like, we're the greatest cult in crypto. We have the greatest community, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, dude, that's just fundamentally impossible. You can say that because you're trying to sell people, and I get it. But, everyone, when you use some critical thinking, even for like half a second, you come to the conclusion that like fundamentally a community that's been battle tested, been up and down and through the ringer many, many times for the last couple of years is not going to be beaten by a community that's been around for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. It's not going to happen because, some things just take time, right? Like greatness at some point takes some time. And that's what I think Pudgy Penguins has going for it amongst all the other things that I think makes it extremely competitive in this landscape.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of new founders that come into the space don't put enough time on understanding building community over a long period of time. A lot of them are coming and launching tokens within a 3-month marketing campaign and thinking that it can end incredibly well. In very unique cases, maybe, but in most cases, that's not the way it's kind of playing out. And I think there is a huge kind of value to being in the space long term. I mean, we even seen XRP who have gone through their huge battles and their community have obviously done very well recently, and we've kind of seen that come back as well. But you mentioned that it was really tough during the bear markets, and you have gone through a lot of ups and downs as a brand and as a company. Was there ever a stage in it where you thought this might not work out?
Dude, many times. People don't understand the gravity of the struggle that we had to go through here. I want to wait to really like open up the can of worms in our postmortem, meaning like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whenever this is like, hey, I'm hanging up my hat and maybe I'll sit on the chair or something, if that time comes. But dude, we got backstabbed by partners. We went broke many times. We got faded into oblivion by every major NFT holder. I mean, dude, I was doing the craziest things and no one was giving a crap. You know what I mean? Like we were in Walmart, we were down 5% on the day. Like, you know how I felt that night? I was like, dude, are you crazy?
No.
I was like, engagement's cool, but like, why aren't you guys seeing what we're doing for the space? And you're comparing what we have versus the next person's. Like, the next person is copying what we're doing, right? But like, it was such an emotional roller coaster and so much pain and suffering. Elon Musk says it best, but like, says like many entrepreneurs like are chewing glass when they're building. Like we were chewing glass,
Yeah.
right? It felt like we were chewing glass so many times. God has a thing where he always makes me go through the hardest path, but he always gets me at the end of it,
Yeah.
right? In terms of like I always get through it, but like when I tell you the hardest path, I mean the hardest path. I talked to 300 venture capitalists when we were raising our round. Our NFT market cap was like at 80 million bucks. And I couldn't get anyone to give me any money at like a $25 million valuation.
Wow.
You know? I was
Yeah.
like, what? I was like, you guys must be nuts.
Yeah.
You know? Turns out for those VCs, it was probably the biggest fumble of the bear market. No, truly, I I I think if we don't screw up this launch, I think it will be.
Yeah.
Um, so, could have made a ton of their careers, could have put them in a position where they could have had a huge win for their LPs, and the fund in general, and they passed. So ultimately, we had the last laugh, but it was not easy.
Yeah.
It was not, no one it was helping. Like Brian Pellegrino and Alex from Nansen, biggest Chads ever. Only two guys that like really since day one were in our corner supporting us, and they made it. They really helped and broke some barriers for us. So, but outside of that, we went through hell, dude.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful because I think a lot of people from the outside remember the amazing moments for Pudgy Penguins and see it as being like you guys have just been killing it continuously without kind of understanding, I guess, yeah, the struggles that you've gone through in the back end. You're obviously a very young entrepreneur and you're mentioning a lot of these like emotional struggles while going through building this. And obviously you have experience being an entrepreneur before, but I think this is on a whole new scale in terms of the eyes that are on you, the pressures that are on you. You got a community there. How have you managed that on like a personal level and also like a psychological level?
Yeah, insane evolution. I mean, I almost blew up this company a couple times. I'm a pretty temperamental guy, or at least I was. Executive coaching, I got the best group of guys. I told the guys in the car the other day, I said, dude, no matter what happens, I'm so glad I'm doing it with you guys. And secondly, like, wow, I think we've got the best team because there's 6 or 7 people in this company that could be the CEO of this business. And all of us know a little bit about what the other does and like could do it in some shape, way, or form.
Yeah.
Right. And we all help each other. Like every little piece of the puzzle is filled by somebody on this executive team. And we really like it's a perfect recipe for success. But a lot of pain, a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, literally, uh, and a lot of executive coaching. Yeah.
How does you've mentioned it a few times now about the team is amazing and great and it's kind of what you kind of contribute the success to or attribute the success to. How have you managed to build such a good team in way through? Because it is quite a interesting dynamic in this industry of having to find people that understand the industry really well and are tapped into it. But obviously there's not always that much talent that understand both sides of it.
Mm.
So how have you managed to build such an amazing team? And I guess what are some of the lessons you've learned when building that team?
I think it's just been over the last couple of, I assembled this like half assembled, so I knew these guys were good. Like me and Peter have been the dynamic duo for the last 10 years, right? I've been marketing, he's been creative. So, we ended up absorbing the design agency. So he just brought his whole team in, 30 people, snap of a finger. Like we had half the team built pretty much since day one. And it's through years of just like trials and tribulations, and then finding the right people and understanding like who was needed. And we fired a lot of people, got rid of a lot of people, and not to say that they like weren't good, just some things are just not good culture fits, and
Yeah.
a lot of the cases of the people that are not here with us today is really because of that. um, but yeah, I think good communication, good leadership. I feel like people want to work here. They want to work with us. I would be remiss to say that my personal brand didn't help us by many multitudes,
Yeah.
right? So personal brands are important. I'd probably say those are the pillars.
Yeah, so you guys have obviously going back to the abstract side of things, you mentioned it a lot for kind of the tying into your ecosystem, and it's been one of the big acquisitions for Igloo inclusive recently. What do you guys look for when looking to acquire businesses in Web3 specifically, given I guess the dynamic landscape that we see?
Talent and people, I think above all else. Frame was an acqui-hire more than it was anything. We, used fractions of the tech that they already built. I think people say this all the time, but they're like, I don't want to buy this because of execution risk. And I'm here to tell you that execution risk is the only bet worth making. Nothing in life, with the exception of like a couple anomalies of like uh a Van Gogh, you
Yeah.
know, and the art people in crypto love to be like execution risk. No, no, no. In crypto's a fast-paced attention. Nothing in the world rewards attention
Yeah.
and the capturing of attention than crypto. A force and a team and a founder will be able to create more attention and more excitement than any DAO ever could or would in, I think, our lifetime. You'll never see it happen, right? And so it's funny when I hear crypto folks saying, hey, we're not going to execution risk. And I'm like, one, the things that you're investing in all have execution risk,
Yeah.
right? ETH has execution risk. Bitcoin has execution risk if Satoshi pops up somewhere and moves that million Bitcoins,
Yeah.
right? But remove those analogies from the table. Every great investment ever in the history of humanity, with the exception of one or two anomalies,
Yeah.
has been predicated on betting on somebody where there was execution risk. So I encourage everyone listening, if you are saying that you don't bet on things with execution risk, or you factor things with execution risk as a net negative, your logic is fundamentally flawed. And that's not my opinion. Every data point that suggests that every great investment ever, with the exception of one or two or three or four anomalies, right, out of the sum of thousands of successful investments, have all been predicated off of a driving force executing on making those things return. Like I'm so fascinated. I love it when they say, I'm like, dude, you just don't know what you're talking about, right? But it's not their fault because a lot of people still have 2021, 2022 PTSD.
Yeah.
Whereas like, oh yeah, you did bet on a team. But that's why it's like, dude, when you see a winner, when you see a group, that's why I was like, dude, why is no one supporting us? For a moment there, I was like, dude, don't you see us showing up every day and showing out? But I look at when we acquire, it starts and stops with the people. That's why too, when investing, I see so many venture investors invest in like good ideas and like the founders suck. A lot of people, I think when they heard us, were stoked on us, right? But they were like, there's no TAM, there's no upside.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, if you might have thought that, but you got to make a bet on me, right? That I'm going to go and create that exponential upside. Now, I think in a week's time, the Pudgy ecosystem will be worth billions of dollars. So when I was raising venture 2.5 years ago, nobody could see past $100 million upside.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you have no vision, right? But but they shouldn't even have looked at it that far. They should have just they should have made their assessment on me.
Yeah.
And I say this humbly, but I think even then I wasn't as sharp or as polished. But you could see that I wanted it. But most importantly, I put $2.5 million of my own money on the line.
Yeah.
So what bigger signal to you is that? What other founder in crypto has that much exposure to their own business than me, right? Maybe 5, maybe 10,
Yeah.
right? Those are the guys worth betting on because I rather be in the same boat as a founder, right, than be in a different boat as a founder. So for me, it starts and stops there, and I think Saigar and Pablo and Beans are some of the best in the world at what they do.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people I've spoken to have said is very much around the personnel that are working at each of these companies and each of these projects as such. But with everything you guys touch, it's very much focused on distribution, right? Even with abstract, distribution, from my perspective, seems to be the USP, and it's obviously the biggest barrier currently seen for every chain, is the distribution side of things. What is the special formula for distribution and your marketing success for what you can share?
Yeah, it's two faceted, right? There's two bets that you're making. One that got significantly amplified as of recent. But if you believe in abstracts distribution, you're believing on one, our ability as a team to distribute to the portal and to the consumer terminal. So for those of you not familiar, the first debut of the abstract product will really be via like a terminal, a domain in which you'll be able to kind of navigate the ecosystem through one interface. You are making a bet, if you're a builder, that I'm going to be able to take the machine from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Google, and I'll be able to point people to this domain in which you will get runoff distribution from the traffic that I drive. One. The second one is that you believe that Pudgy Penguins community is one of the best communities in crypto, and that they show up, they show out, and they champion, and that they create excitement. When most builders sign up to build the abstract, they signed up to, for those two reasons, but they only assumed that there would be 10,000 Pudgy Penguin holders.
Yeah.
I came in with an adrenaline shot to the heart, right? People were looking at it like, isn't this bearish abstract? I'm like, you are not thinking a single bit, are you? Right? Because if you think even for like 30 seconds critically, you'll realize that this is actually a giant adrenaline shot to the heart of abstract, right? And that adrenaline shot is basically, I'm saying, I've got 10,000 people who are going to ride with me.
Yeah.
One, I'm going to take care of them and show them that I can take care of them, right? So that they're going to be exponentially more, enthused to go in and champion abstract. And secondly, and more importantly, the 10,000 person community is now going to become 300,000, 500,000, a million, right? And that army is exponentially more powerful than our, 300 Spartans, in this case, our 10,000 Spartans, holding the line. We're coming now with the 300 and the Xerxes army, right? So it's impossible to beat. It just took a little bit of critical thought, but a lot of people love to mid-curve things and not like to think of things and like to react.
Biggest danger.
But if you think about it, you're like, oh man, dude, he's playing 5D chess.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting approach, and yeah, something I hadn't kind of, I guess, put the puzzles together in terms of what you guys were doing with abstract. But it just comes to my mind in terms of how Web3 seems to work right now is kind of reverse to what we see in the Web2 world, in terms of you build a consumer audience first before you have the product, and then you bring them to the product. What is your view on that? Because it is, I guess, a superpower in many ways if you're able to build that community first, because then you basically have a supercharged community to tap into when launching the product. But yeah, I guess, how do you view that kind of reversal?
I think the future of NFTs. So I believe the best thing to do is go community first, and I think they're going to be done through NFTs. Meaning, if you're building a protocol, launch an NFT collection first. Build your community. If you're building a blockchain, launch an NFT collection first. Build your community. If you're launching a coin, a meme coin, launch an NFT project first. Build your community. If you're launching, a consumer app, PFP first. That is, I think, where the PFPs are going. Is they're actually the beginning, and you got to earn your stripes, right? Yeah. You got to sign up by like, hey, first 6 months, I'm not making any money. First 12 months, I'm not making any money. First 18 months, I'm not making any money. But your moat to success, like for example, if I didn't have Pudgy and I was just Luca launching a coin, like what would that be indexed at? $1 million, $2 million. People are thinking that Pengu is going to, the conservative estimates are it's like $2-3 billion. I'm like, well, I think it should be 100 billion, but that's just my take, right?
Yeah.
But fundamentally, that's the difference, right? Like Luca on my own is a $1 million shitter, right? Luca with 3 years of Pudgy and breaking barriers and pushing boundaries and putting my blood, sweat, and tears into this and planting our flag in the ground is, by conservative estimates, 2 to 3 billion. If you check at the scoreboard and you look at the data, I think it should be somewhere in the top 3 of those style tokens easily, right? So, we'll see. But so far I've been pretty accurate up until this point.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think it's actually quite sad how a lot of founders, I guess, fell on an amazing community and didn't capitalize on it. So a lot of them didn't nurture them very well. I know so many ways, like they literally have they've been built off the back of their core community, and they've basically rode that wave, but they haven't given back, and they haven't nurtured that community and really made the most out of it. And I think that's the biggest superpower in Web3 when you're looking to start these companies, especially as a startup. You have such a great feedback loop when kind of building a company within a new industry, and I think it's something special, and I hope more founders look to do that, the cycle. But I guess as we go into the end of this podcast, I'd love to understand, and I like asking 2 questions to kind of give back to the listeners, and it's one being, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop playing the victim. The root of failure is the victim mentality, and the root of stagnation and the inability to do something is the victim mentality. I see this with my family members. I see this with so many people around me. I've seen this for years, and I saw it with myself. I was 15 years old. I was poor, literally so poor, and my mom was like nervous breakdowns, freaking out, and I just hated her so much. And then I saw this, and I was just looking on Instagram, comparing myself to all these people with amazing lives. My best friend was loaded. He was rich. I was like, dude, why does my life suck so bad? And then the second I stopped playing the victim, I saw a YouTube video. He said, stop feeling sorry for yourself and go change your life and go do it. I literally tested out of school 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
and I started working, and I made like my first 10 grand like 3 months after that.
Wow.
And then 2 years, a year and a half after that, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah, well.
So but it started with like everyone wants to be the victim. Oh, I feel so sorry for me. My life is so bad, right? Like if you just don't take it by the horns, like you're just going to be in this perpetual loop.
Yeah.
That's my best advice. Is if you are that is the advice that changed my life off of a YouTube video. So hopefully somebody here watching this, it makes you stop telling yourself a victim story and realize that you're in control of your destiny.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think something that I've mentioned it before on some of the other podcasts, but the most impactful thing I've realized over the last few years is just how impactful a perspective change can happen. Like even that small perspective change or like a pretty large perspective change in your life has basically made you into who you are today. And I think the power of reframing your own mind and not always listening to like the way your mind wants to be programmed and kind of questioning some things and like looking to reframe some things to be more positive and also kind of look to understand that, like you say, life is in your own control and only you can really change it. So kind of go out there and grasp it because you've got one of them. So yeah, make the most of it.
Yep.
But in terms of the last pieces, one piece of advice that you'd give someone coming into the industry, whether it's a retail person coming in to invest for the first time or it's just someone that's curious about Web3 that wants to get in. Yeah, I'd love to.
Starts
Yeah.
and stops with the community. Community is the most important variable. Community is the only moat. Not your tech, not your idea, not your talent, your community.
Amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure, Luca. And yeah, really looking forward to everything you're going to build. You've been a huge inspiration to me, and I know many others. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Caleb.